Good evening. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. So glad everyone is here. And first and foremost, I'd like to welcome C-SPAN is here tonight. So have to be on your best behavior, but this is being taped by C-SPAN. Secondly, I'd like to welcome Nick Adams. Nick is finally here. For you Forum veterans, you may recall he was supposed to be here last summer, but he wasn't. And he'll be telling you why and a little bit about that as well. So here is Nick. Finally, he's only 32 and he's had a remarkable life already. He's been an office holder in Australia. He is an author of 3 books. He's a TV commentator. You might have seen him on shows on Fox like O'Reilly. And most recently, he started this organization, FLAG, a Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness. You'll be hearing more about that later, but we're very excited that he's doing this because FLAG is dedicated to reversing the toxins from political correctness and the defamation of America. And the way he's doing it is starting where it needs to start, with elementary, middle, and high school students. So that's his goal, to do that. Nick has had glowing recommendations for his books and his works from such notables as Dana Perino, Ben Carson, and Colonel North. And his board at FLAG is staffed with notables as well. Most importantly, perhaps, a Forum alumni of Colonel West and Pete Hegseth serve on the board of FLAG. So we've heard him speak as well. Okay, with no further ado, I am so happy to introduce a new friend of mine, and you're going to have a great night, Mr. Nick Adams.
Thank you, Erica. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Conservative Forum of Silicon Valley. What an honour it is to be able to be here with each and every single one of you. I have to extend my profound gratitude to the President, Mr. Joel Fine, and Erica Amirati for being instrumental in ensuring that I could be here with you this evening. It was not easy, as many of you will well know, but we managed to achieve it, and I am just thrilled to be here. I would also like to send out a very big thank you to Bob and Carrie Zeidman for their kindness and their generosity the last couple of days, making my inaugural visit to Silicon Valley so deeply special. What a pleasure and privilege it is to be in the land of the free and the home of the brave. In the world's exceptional nation, in civilization's indispensable country. And to top it all off, if all of that weren't enough, in Silicon Valley, the living and breathing validation of conservative principles, where the indomitable human, entrepreneurial, individual spirit truly thrives. A place where individual investment, innovation, and ingenuity marks that which is exceptional in the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to share with you a story. And as I share with you this story, I invite you to close your eyes and really imagine what it is that I'm telling you. It's December of 1985. 2 parents are at their wits' end. Something is wrong with their 16-month-old child. For months, they've been to doctor after doctor, paediatrician after paediatrician, but nobody can tell them what is wrong. One night, on the 23rd of December, with their child more unsettled than even usual, they head to the emergency department of the local children's hospital. The ward is almost deserted, but there is one overnight doctor, a young man with a smiling face and an accent. As he looks the child over, his smile quickly evaporates. "I'm not sure," he says, "but I think that your child has neuroblastoma. And I think it's in a very advanced stage, and you need to make sure that you get your child in for tests the first thing tomorrow morning." The very next day, the parents' worst fears would be confirmed. Their child had stage 4 neuroblastoma, a very rare form of childhood cancer. The parents were mine. The doctor was an American. The child was me. The cause of neuroblastoma remains unknown to this day, with only 1 in 100,000 children being diagnosed with it each year. Notoriously difficult to diagnose. When it is, the tumour has almost always already metastasised. An infant with stage 4 neuroblastoma is given just a 5% chance of life. Only 1 in 20 survive. Through the healing hands of God, our master physician, I underwent 3 years of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and an operation. I defied the odds and I survived. The instincts of that American doctor, fresh out of college, just in Australia for a summer internship, just in the nick of time, proved crucial to my survival. So, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't only studied American exceptionalism, I've lived it. In fact, I am alive because of it. Since that early adversity, I have been unstoppable. I was publicly elected to political office at the age of 19. I became the youngest deputy mayor in Australian history, just 8 days after my 21st birthday. I was a best-selling author before I turned the age of 30. Now, having recently turned 32, I have spoken in more than half of the states in the United States of America, and I know there aren't 57. I've appeared on almost every single major radio and television program in the country. I've spoken in 5 different nations. I'm a regular on Fox News, and worldwide I am recognised as an authority on American exceptionalism. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, I have decided to dedicate my life to protecting, promoting, and preserving the United States of America. And if all of that weren't enough, on the 29th of July of 2016, a mere 5 months ago, after 4.5 long, torturous, arduous years, and almost $50,000 later, I finally immigrated to the United States of America. I am an American. Which gives me a very unique trifecta. I am Australian by birth, Texan by appointment, thank you Governor Rick Perry, and American by choice. So what is it that I believe in? I believe in God, personal responsibility, the sanctity of human life, that welfare should ideally be a community and church responsibility. I believe that the best social program is a job. I believe in free markets, individual liberty. I believe in the state of Israel, a strong national defence. I believe in the right to bear arms. But up there with all of those things, ladies and gentlemen, I believe in America. And I want you to know something, that despite all of the cultural problems that America may have right now, this is still, by far and away, the greatest country in the history of the world. Every single time I speak in front of an audience of the next generation of America, of the future leaders of the United States, whether it's an elementary school, a middle school, a high school, or a college, I tell those students that the day that they were born in the United States of America is the day that they won the lottery of life. And I implore them, I beseech them to never ever buy into the narratives of the left, that America is an awful place, a terrible place, that America only caters to certain people. This is the best country in the world to be born in, the best country in the world to live in, the best country in the world to start a business in, the best country in the world to work in. This is a country where you can fall down 5,000 times, but if you have the grit and determination to get up 5,001, you can do it and you can make it. This is the nation of the world where you can rise above the circumstances of your birth to go on and achieve whatever it is that's in your heart to be achieved. This is the country where risk, hustle and initiative go further than anywhere else. America is special because America is not just a country, not simply a stretch of land, not merely a geographic entity. America is an idea, it is an ideal, it is a notion, it is an improbable and daring experiment that remains just as improbable and daring today. It is the hope that banishes all hopelessness. There are 4 ways that a nation is said to be exceptional: culturally, militarily, economically and scientifically. And on each of those 4 measurements, in almost 5,000 years of recorded human history, we have never before seen a nation, a culture or a people dominate the way the United States of America has. But ladies and gentlemen, American exceptionalism is not an accident. It's intentional. You see, the most prescient men to have ever walked this earth were America's founders, who understood that the key to unleashing human potential, the key to unlocking human ingenuity, the key to unleashing human innovation was to make sure that men and women were as unencumbered as possible by red tape and the need for government approvals. And it is for all of those reasons that this is the exceptional and indispensable country of the world, that the American value system is the value system of all mankind. It's also why America's role in the world is unlike any other. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the world's fortunes travel with the United States of America. When America is strong, the world is strong. When America is weak, the world is a weak and dangerous place. Now, that's not a Nick Adams hypothesis that I've scribbled on the back of a cocktail napkin after a few drinks. We're living that reality right now, real time, as the elites in our government have deliberately sought to make America retreat, have intentionally made sure that the influence of the United States has waned in recent years, and As a result, the world that we live in right now is a world that is full of problems. I want you to consider for just a fleeting moment, ladies and gentlemen, what the world would look like without the United States of America. North Korea would invade South Korea. Taiwan would be overrun by China. Russia would rebuild the Soviet Empire. Islamic terrorists would act with complete impunity. War, maybe nuclear, would break out in the Middle East. Tyrants in North Africa would run around even more mercilessly than what they already do. The world would be covered in a biblical style darkness, with individual liberty gradually diminishing and ultimately becoming extinct. That is what the world would look like without the United States of America. There are 10 things that America needs to do to be strong here at home, so that that light domestically can shine abroad. Got to end the waste, pay back the debt, limit the government, axe political correctness, protect the borders, preserve Judeo-Christian traditions, end the culture of entitlement, cut taxes, exercise fidelity to the Constitution, and keep the peace through unquestioned military advantage. These are the things. This is the agenda that America needs to get behind. But ladies and gentlemen, without a doubt, the greatest threat facing the United States of America, the American idea, the virtues and values of Americans, is political correctness. Political correctness is killing the United States of America. You see, most people think that political correctness is merely an imposition on speech. Well, that would be bad enough with our tradition of the First Amendment. But I've got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, with regret rich in my voice, that political correctness is infinitely more than that. Political correctness is a cultural mindset. It is an attitude. It is a way of life that tells you to strive for mediocrity and not greatness, that punishes you for colouring outside of the lines, that tells you that life is about kissing butt rather than kicking it. What could be more antithetical to the American promise than that proposition? America has always been about kicking butt, not kissing it. And yet political correctness would seek to turn that on its head. Ladies and gentlemen, political correctness is a choking conformity. It is a totalitarian ideology that strips us of our individualism, that eliminates our confidence, that removes our patriotism. Political correctness is turning the American dream into the European nightmare. America is complex, but American exceptionalism is easy. It's individualism, not collectivism. It's patriotism, not relativism. It's faith, not secularism. God, not government. It's equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. It's about being bold, not being bland. It's about e pluribus unum, not radical multiculturalism. These are the things that have always served to differentiate the United States of America from every other place in the world. And yet, those elites in the media, in academia, and in every other cultural institution would seek to remove every point of difference between America and the rest of the world. They want to see America become just another European country. Just another Belgium. But ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what we need to push back against. With renewed optimism in our country's direction, we once more boldly make plans for our dreams. With a soon-to-be revitalised White House, the spring has returned to our step. Once more, America at the brink, with the entire world watching, teetering on the precipice of mediocrity, wrestling with potential obscurity, up against every imaginable opposition. Americans pulled one out again for mankind, saved Western civilization, granted us a reprieve, secured our immediate inoculation from a European existence, staved off and struck a deadly blow at the epicenter of the evil black heart of Islamist ambition for at least 4 years. I'm reminded, ladies and gentlemen, of my political hero and the greatest figure of the 20th century, whose tie I proudly wear tonight, Sir Winston Churchill, and his affectionate jibe that America always does the right thing after exhausting every other option. Ladies and gentlemen, we did our part at the ballot box. The conspicuously gallant men and women of the United States military will continue to protect the homeland and freeze the sweat and chill the bones of any man who harbours dreams of tyranny. But now, with all of this set up for us, with the wind at our backs, now is not the time to bask in the glory of the glow of victory. Now is the time to capitalise, and now is the time for us to storm the gates of the left. This is our time. This is our moment. It is now time to fight the ideological war. It is time to win back the future. It is time to mobilise Middle America. This is the moment we have been waiting for. This is the moment that we can change the course of history, that we can transform a generation, that we can change a culture, that we can change a media narrative, that we can crush political correctness and relegate it to the dusty bookshelf of some third-rate library right where it belongs. This is the time to heal the divisions that the left purposely broke wide open. But more than that, ladies and gentlemen, most importantly of all, this is our chance to do something that for several generations we as Americans have not done, that we simply assumed would be passed on. This is our opportunity to pass on what it means to be an American, what Americanism is. A country, a society, much like any individual, has to have a reason in order for it to survive. Where there is a why, there is a how. Americans have lost our how. That's what we need to get back. The most stunning change in the global mind in the last 50 years is the prevalence of this idea that America is a villain, a perpetrator, a predator, an oppressor, an imperialist, a warmonger, a terrorist, that America is evil. All collectivist societies around the world now see America as a common enemy and have joined forces against her. The elites in the media, academia, and education are deliberately and recklessly depicting America as a hateful and bigoted place, intentionally seeking to raise a generation of Americans that are ambivalent, if not overtly and outwardly hostile to their country of birth and residence. You see, ladies and gentlemen, conservatives are builders. Leftists are destroyers. They have to destroy in order to try and build the utopia that they seek. They have destroyed our patriotism. They have destroyed our confidence. They have destroyed the family unit. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now our turn and our time to stand up amid that destruction and to punch back as hard as we possibly can. Many of us in this room have felt the heat of the left. We've lost jobs. We've missed out on opportunities. We've been forced out of organisations. We've been ostracised and blacklisted and punished and dragged over the hot coals. All of my adult life, I have been up against the ogre of the left. Many times over, my life has been turned upside down by some of the most repulsive and, quite frankly, evil people I have ever met. I became unemployable in Australia as a high school English teacher because of views that I expressed in Fox News studios half a world away in New York City. My father, a lifelong teacher of mathematics, of impeccable standing, once they found out who his son was, they then went after him and forced him into early retirement. My dream of becoming an American almost didn't materialise, despite having earned an extraordinary ability green card and having had it already approved by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. When at the last second, an activist of the left in the US State Department decided to try and overturn my approval, leading to a period of time in my life where I had no future in Australia and was facing the prospect of never ever being able to return here to the United States of America, the country that I love and the country that I have worked so hard to build up a life and a career in. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sick of these people. I am ready to clean them out. I am ready to make sure that the country that we leave our children and our grandchildren and their great-great-great-grandchildren is not a country or a place like the one that we currently inhabit. I'm now in America, and for me, my destiny is complete. I am here now to serve America. And that's why I've set up an organisation called FLAG, the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness. FLAG is committed to stopping the defamation of the American people, the American nation, and the American culture. Flag is not a think tank. Flag is a battle tank. Flag is all about changing the culture and changing the media narrative by using the tactics of the left back against them. That's how we win. That's how we reverse the tide. Flag is an educational non-profit. We go into as many elementary, middle and high schools as we possibly can, talking to kids about what makes America special, what makes America different. Why is the Constitution the best political document ever written? What would the world look like today had it not been for American leadership in the 20th century? What would the world look like in the future if there was no America? What all has the United States given the world? Why has it been an unparalleled force for good in this world? Ladies and gentlemen, we seek to counter the army of anti-American activists masquerading as teachers that are deliberately trying to raise a generation of American haters. Flag is also a media response arm. The days of the left playing unopposed are over. Flag will field guests on every single major cable network, from MSNBC all the way through to Fox News. And we will make sure that every single time America's reputation is on the line, every single time someone seeks to slander or libel or defame the United States of America, we are countering with truth. We are countering with facts. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to start writing the petitions. It's time for us to start calling for heads to roll. I want people to know that if they are going to go out there and they are going to mock, deride, traduce, castigate, libel, slander or defame the United States of America, there is an organisation that will hold them to account. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the deal. If you said 1/16 of the things that are said about the United States of America, about any other country, culture, or people, you would be hauled over the hot coals of every anti-discrimination tribunal and human rights commission you could poke a dirty stick at. But if you come out and say something awful about the United States of America, the culture treats you like you're a hero. It is a disgraceful inversion of logic, of fairness, and of decency. And while our gallant men and women of the United States military have got our backs everywhere, at sea, on the land, in the air, heck, even in space, the one place where we need to stand up, if not for ourselves, at least for them, is we need to stand up for America in the culture. And that is exactly what Flag is all about doing. This last July, America celebrated her 240th birthday. A time for great celebration. But I would also suggest, ladies and gentlemen, a time for sober and somber reflection. Because if you go and ask any historian worth their salt how long great nations tend to last, they will tell you somewhere between 230 and 250 years. That puts America right in the kill zone. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, the stakes are higher today than what they have ever been. because the enemies of the United States are no longer simply foreign. They are also domestic. And that is why the battle that we are going to have to embark on is going to require us to muster every ounce of patriotism, every seed of passion, from the soles of our feet to the tops of our heads, to rescue this country. I've come to the United States at a time where most people have written her off, where most people say that America's best days are behind her, where most people say that America's glory time is finished. I don't believe that for a single solitary second. As a student of American history, there is a boomerang resilience feature of the American psyche and the average American. From the early defeats by Britain in the War of Independence, to the loss of the Philippines, to Pearl Harbor, to the days following September 11, every single time America has been under attack, every single time freedom has been under attack, America has bounced back bigger and stronger and better than ever before. Ladies and gentlemen, FLAG is committed to presiding over a conservative, patriotic, constitutional renaissance that will secure the American dream for another 200 years at least. We're off to a flying start. In just 3 months, we have already trained almost 4,000 students at 31 different schools, 28 of which were public schools in 12 different states. We are currently in the middle of producing the world's first kid-friendly constitution. We are getting the Constitution into plain English. We are making it relatable with images and graphic design, and it is FLAG's goal to make sure that that kid-friendly Constitution one day gets into the hands of every single American child. FLAG envisions a day, ladies and gentlemen, where every child at the beginning of the school year will receive a FLAG freedom bag. In that freedom bag will be a copy of the Constitution, a copy of the kid-friendly Constitution, a Declaration of Independence, and an American flag. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we want our children, the future leaders of tomorrow, to be tethered, to be anchored to the values and the virtues that have catapulted America to the pinnacle nation on this earth. We are doing incredibly well. On FLAG's Advisory Council, I have managed to assemble an all-star conservative cast. My mentor, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Another mentor, Dennis Prager, conservative radio titan, hailing from this very state. My good friend, Pete Hegseth, an Iraq and Afghanistan veteran, a Yale graduate, and recently made a permanent host on Fox and Friends Weekend. John Sullivan, the executive producer of 2 of the 3 Dinesh D'Souza films. Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA. Ladies and gentlemen, this group is committed to making sure that we stop the rot. We are committed to making sure that all of those areas of influence that the left have so successfully infiltrated are going to be over. And we're not going to do it with research papers. We're not going to do it sitting behind a desk. Flag is all about going out there and taking the fight to the left. We are all about making the case for America, unapologetically, robustly, aggressively, and swiftly, without retreating, without taking a backward step, because that is precisely what is needed right now. But ladies and gentlemen, we can't do it by ourselves. We need an army. Flag needs an army of everyday, ordinary, regular, hard-working American men and women who share our vision and share our concern for the land and the American idea that we will bequeath to former generations. We need financial help. Flag is a 501c3 organisation. All donations are 100% tax deductible. I want to ask all of you to please consider making a tax deductible gift to Flag tonight. Anything that you can offer, whether it's $10 or $50 or $100 or $500 or $1,000 or $5,000, whatever it is, anything that you can assist with would help us enormously. There's about 150 people here tonight. Just think, $100 from every person is $15,000. That would enable us to get into 15 schools. We could get 6,000 constitutions of the kid-friendly variety to students. We could reach hearts and minds. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the fight of our lives. The left control just about every single major shaper and influence of culture. Culture trumps politics. Culture transcends politics. The culture is where the fight is, and it's where we need to be. We need to commit ourselves to this fight with everything that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, America is freedom's Colosseum. Freedom will live or freedom will perish right here. The rest of the world is way too far gone. It rests on our shoulders. We are the only country that is capable of crushing political correctness. We are the only country that is capable of being the guardian of liberty. And that is what we must continue to be. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best country in the world. Whether you're a black person, a white person, a brown person, a purple person, it doesn't matter. It's in the interests of everyone that America be as strong as possible. You can be an American and you can love the United States of America even if you have never even set your little toe on American. Because as Thomas Paine put it, the cause of America is the cause for mankind. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you, God bless California, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get started. We've got some excellent questions already, and we'll start out somewhat light. Nick, I don't know if you've been along or in America long enough or enough times to know American football, but one of our guests tonight wants to know, what would you do about Colin Kaepernick?
Well, it's a terrific question. And I do happen to know a lot about Colin Kaepernick, because in the last 3 months that Flag has been operational, we have had a very substantive hand in dealing with the unpatriotic actions and gestures of the NFL. So when Colin Kaepernick came out and did what he did and took a knee, and still does take a knee, I went on Fox News and I called for Colin Kaepernick's resignation.
Oh.
And it was a clip that went viral, and it was viewed more than 2 million times. When the Seattle Seahawks intimated that they were considering sitting out the entire national anthem as a team on September 11, no less, Flag sprung into action. We immediately released the names of every single fallen military hero from Seattle since September 11, 2001. And we called for the boycott, we called for the financial decimation of the Seattle Seahawks franchise and all affiliated franchises. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The Seattle Seahawks did not sit out the national anthem as a team.
Okay, so somebody has a practical question. Can people buy the kid-friendly Constitution now?
Well, it's not quite ready just yet. We have just finished writing it, and we're in the stages of making sure that we get all of the cartoons and illustrations and the graphic design right. But I can promise you this, that we will keep the Conservative Forum of Silicon Valley, and in fact, Flag will be very happy to partner with the Conservative Forum of Silicon Valley in distributing and getting out these kid-friendly constitutions.
Great, that's nice. This is a question I would have on my own as well. Is your nemesis in the State Department still employed?
To the best of my knowledge, the individual that was at the centre of turning my life upside down for a period of time remains an employee of the State Department, but the good news is that on the 20th of January, there's a change coming.
That's great. You mentioned Charlie Kirk of Turning Point, who's also a Forum alum. Someone wants to know, how are your two missions different?
Oh, well, they're very different. So Flag is all about just focusing on American exceptionalism. So Turning Point has a much broader approach, and they're focused really on colleges. And Flag's view is that we need to get in there as quick as we possibly can, which is why we go to elementary schools even, middle schools and high schools. But Turning Point is really about teaching students philosophies about conservatism and things like that. Flag is just about being the watchguard for America and for promoting American exceptionalism. We are very specific, we are very targeted to that, and there is no organisation anywhere in the world that has got that same target or that same mission as us. We are unique in the 501c3 movement.
This is a great practical question. How the heck are you getting into public schools?
You know, when I first began Flag, everyone said to me, Nick, it's a fantastic idea, but there's no way in the world you are ever going to get in to the schools. Well, ladies and gentlemen, can I tell you, we have not been turned down once yet. It has been amazing. We go there, we say that we are going to educate on patriotic principles. Our message is patriotic. I know that these days that's politically incorrect, but our message is patriotic, it's motivational, it's uplifting. It explains to students that because they're American, they've got a head start in life and they can do whatever it is that they want to do. We make sure that we point out what's different about the United States, both in terms of the legal setup, both in terms of the documents that have shaped America, and in particular the culture. So when I go into an elementary school, I talk to kids about Walt Disney and the example of American exceptionalism and the positive influence that Walt Disney has had on kids right around the world. When I go to a middle school or a high school, I talk about tipping. And I alert the students to the fact that the only country in the world where tipping is an integrated part of the economy is America. And I can't think of a more American concept than tipping. Number one, it causes you to care about your fellow human being. A lot of people rely on tips to make ends meet. Number two, there's no limit to what you can possibly earn in tips. If you wait on the right person and you give great service, there's no telling how much money you may walk away with. And the third thing is that tipping provides an incentive for good work. And they're all things that make America a special place. So it's by making these kids aware of just how different the United States is to everywhere else, that's how we capture them. And I've had so many students come up to me, and we've been into some tough schools. We've been into inner city Orlando schools in Florida. We've been into inner city Arlington schools. And I've had students come up to me afterwards and say, Mr. Adams, you know, I don't quite know yet if I agree with you, but you've put things in a way that I hadn't previously considered. And to me, ladies and gentlemen, that is a victory in and of itself, because that is the start of the process to changing those hearts and reaching those minds. And I'm going to go back into those schools. I'm not going to give up on those kids. Just last week I was in St. Louis, Missouri. And because of this administration and because of the politically correct narrative that has been advanced, I can report to you that in St. Louis, racial tensions are worse than they have ever been. And I went into these schools. I went into a particular school. It was actually a Catholic school in St. Louis, and I was hosted by a club on campus. There was a row of African American students who pushed back against me hard. And I was there for a full 2 hours explaining to these students that this is the best country in the world for a black person to live. And I pointed out to them that more black Africans have immigrated voluntarily to the United States than came as slaves. And almost no black Americans have ever left to go anywhere else once they're here. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to counter with fact, truth, and reality. And I have never ever been more sure that we can have an impact than these last 3 months, when I have been at the cauldron talking to all students of all different stripes.
Right. Has Donald Trump acknowledged flag?
You know, I belong to a very rare breed. I supported Donald Trump, or I started to support Donald Trump on the 16th of June 2015. Don't know if anyone remembers what that day was, but that was the day that he announced that he was running for President of the United States. I read The Art of the Deal when I was 11. And I've been a lifelong admirer of Donald Trump, and it wasn't that he best represented my political belief system. I'm a doctrinaire conservative. Senator Ted Cruz would have probably been the best representation of my politics. Marco Rubio was a fairly conservative face and a pleasant face for conservatives and Republicans. Governor Perry is a good friend of mine. Ben Carson has endorsed my work. There were many people up on that stage in the 17 candidates that could have made great presidents. But I realised early on, ladies and gentlemen, that where the world was at this point in time, it required someone bigger than politics. It required someone different. Because I knew of the obstacles, the hurdles, the opposition that any Republican candidate for president is going to get. The media, academia, Hollywood, everyone piling up. The only person that could withstand all of that. And I got into this game to change the culture that has always been what I've wanted to do. I got in this game to change the culture. And I viewed Donald Trump as the best chance for that change in culture. And I think we can all agree, looking at that electoral map, that the only candidate of those 17 that could have won on the 8th of November 2016 was Donald J. Trump. And I was thrilled that I had the opportunity to be at a few of his rallies in the pre-programmed lineup. And he's rather busy at the moment, but I can tell you that I definitely have it on my radar to bring flag onto his radar, because I figure that if Michelle Obama can go around to our schools talking about healthy eating, then the Trump White House can certainly send an organisation like FLAG around to schools talking about American exceptionalism.
Yeah, that sounds good. Have you thought about getting together with the NRA and when you're going to these schools talk about the value of the Second Amendment?
Look, I love the Second Amendment. I think that the Second Amendment is central to American exceptionalism. Civilian disarmament is based on the idea that unless you work for the government, you can't be trusted. America was founded on precisely the opposite premise. And without the Second Amendment, all other amendments are simply a recommendation. And so I think that anybody that doesn't support the Second Amendment doesn't quite understand what it is to be an American. And it's absolutely right that we make sure that everyone is aware of the importance of the Second Amendment to America's continued success and safety.
This next question is very timely since we've got this person with a wonderful Aussie accent up here. Do you have an update on the immigrant exchange that was signed up for by Barack Obama?
Yeah, well, many people don't realise that that FLAG was involved in breaking the story here in the United States. I was actually told about
Thank
it
you.
by... It's my pleasure. I was actually told about it by my parents, who said, "Nick, you're never going to believe this one." And I said, "Tell me." And he said, "Well, the Australian deal with President Obama to take 2,500 illegal immigrants that tried to go to Australia that we didn't want and that we put into detention. And they're 99% of them, if not 100% of them, are all Muslim. And they're from Iran, Iraq, Sudan, Somalia, and the rest are stateless." So just think about this. President Obama wants to take 2,500 illegal Muslim immigrants that Australia didn't want and placed into detention because they're lawbreakers and queue jumpers. And President Obama and Secretary John Kerry say, "We'll take them." And do you know what the trade is? The trade is that America gives Australia 2,500 Christian refugees from Costa Rica.
Crazy.
That's the swap. That's the deal. 2,500 Christian refugees from Costa Rica for 2,500 illegal Muslim immigrants from countries that, a couple of which are on the state sponsors of terrorism list that the US State Department keeps. And I don't need to remind you that at Ohio State, just a couple of weeks ago, the student at the centre of that, he was a Somalian refugee. And many of these illegal Muslim immigrants that tried to go to Australia were from Somalia. There's no upside for America in this deal. But it is a parting gift from President Obama, and it is in line with the Obama administration's mission to transform the United States of America. to make it a different place to what it's always been. I can promise you this. Flag has made sure that it is now front and centre of the American media. Before, this has been a big story in Australia, but it was not a big story in America up until last week when I was in New York and I did back-to-back television shows. Now, we all know about it. I can promise you this. Flag is keeping its eye on what is going on. We're going to make sure that President Trump knows about it. The one update I can give you is that Australia has secretly sent an emissary, a representative of the Australian government, to sell the idea to President-elect Trump. So we're staying on top of it. We will keep you updated, but I promise you, we have got America's back. We are not going to let this deal happen.
Great. That's great. Well, two different people are wondering how you got your 501c status after the age of Lois Lerner.
Someone blinked. Someone blinked.
That's great.
Look, we were very lucky, and well, we weren't lucky. We are a 501c3, and we are educational. We were just fortunate that the IRS did the right thing, and they were fair to us, and I'm sure that previous experience straightened them up, and we were the beneficiaries of the unfortunate and very unfair casualties of our Tea Party brothers and sisters that were going through the process a couple of years ago.
It's great. Glad to hear it. The next question is, what is your view of the threat of Islam in the United States, and also do you have any views of the threat of Islam in Australia?
Look, Islam is a threat everywhere, as far as I'm concerned. An American's view of life is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. An Islamist view of the world is death, slavery, and the pursuit of power. The two are profoundly incompatible, and if you want to know about Islam, if you want to understand Islam, I've read the Quran, but if you want to understand Islam, if you really want to get a cultural appreciation for it, go and talk to the people that have had to have lived alongside Islam their entire lives. Go and talk to Israelis. Go and talk to Greeks. Go and talk to Indians. Go and talk to Egyptian Coptics. Go and talk to Lebanese Maronites. And they will tell you about Islam. They will explain to you what it is about Islam that causes the problems that it causes. I am infinitely concerned about Islam in America and to Western civilization. These people will not stop until all of us are gone. They will not stop until they have achieved the caliphate that they so passionately want. The issue for us is, up until now, they have wanted to win more than us. And it's just like any street fight. The person who wants it the most, who wants it more, wins. We have to match their intensity. We have to match their hunger. We've got to want to live as much as they want to die. We have got to want to protect Western civilization as much as they want to establish the caliphate. And until that happens, we will continue to be oppressed by this ideology that since the 7th century has gone out seeking to convert alternative mankind to Islam. This is nothing new. From the Battle of Tours to the Battle of Constantinople to the Barbary pirates, What these guys are doing is exactly what that little black book tells them to do. We need to fight back hard against them.
Thank you. You speak a lot about the culture, and certainly Hollywood drives a lot of the culture. In your opinion, what can conservatives do to counter that effect of Hollywood?
It's a great question. Look, we need to engage in the culture war. We need to get out there on the front lines. Now, not all of us can act and sing and dance and do all of those kinds of things. Some of us can, and those of us that can need to get involved. But all of us can in some way support those of us that can sing, dance, act. So it's really, really important that we don't allow these guys to play unopposed. It's really important that we make sure that we are coming up with conservative movies, that we are coming, and it doesn't have to be overtly conservative. That's just no one's interested in that. But we need to make sure that we have patriotic films. We need to make sure that subconsciously, just like the left does, subconsciously we enter the minds of everyday Americans with stories of patriotism and heroism and someone standing up to the government. That's the way that we get our message across. We can't be intimidated. You see, political correctness has already cost us so much. Imagine the plays that have never been written. Imagine the movies that have never been made. We cannot allow ourselves to be intimidated into silence. The voice of freedom should always be as boisterous as possible. I'll never ever forget on September 11 the words of Muhammad Atta on that flight. I think it was American Flight 11. And his last words to all of the people in that passenger jet were, "Be quiet and it will be okay." Mm-hmm. We should never, ever be quiet. And just a little more than an hour or 2 hours later, the world heard the roar of freedom when those other passengers on the jet that would end in Shanksville made sure that everyone heard the voice of freedom. Let's roll. And that is my message here tonight. Let's roll.
Okay, just a few more. We've got a couple questions that you're dealing with the educational side. Your thoughts on Common Core, and I think we know this. The Common Core apparently does not teach the correct history or the Constitution. With your dealings in public schools, talk about Common Core.
Look, Common Core, and I would extend it even more than that. I think that these red pen edits of teachers that are trying to change history, that are trying to distort history, to present it in the worst light imaginable, are nothing short of treasonous. America, like any human being, is not perfect. America has made mistakes. But it is the best thing that we have. And for anyone to put it otherwise is just not being honest. Did America have slavery? Yes. Did other countries have slavery? Yes. But you want to know the only country that went to war with itself about slavery? America. America is the only country that tore itself up over that evil. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want our kids to be burning for the United States of America.
That's great.
I'm calling for a curriculum that sugarcoats American history. I just want it objective. I just want it real. I just want it factual. Not like the Common Core stuff that is being put out there. Not like these teachers that are deliberately trying to choose texts like Howard Zinn. Now, how many of you are familiar with Howard Zinn?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is what our students are reading. This is why FLAG is so necessary. We're going in there and we're talking to kids about why they should be proud to be American, why they should hold their head up high to be an American, why they should never apologise for being American. Why would you want to be a world citizen when you could be an American?
That's a great response, and I wasn't going to, we'll extend this to a couple more questions. Since you just said that, what's your position of the U.S. pulling out of the UN?
The United Nations is the most feckless, the most toothless, the most gutless organisation you can imagine. Year after year, we are regaled with tales of remarkable irony, like the Safety of Women Committee of the United Nations, being chaired by Saudi Arabia or some other country like that. We have the United Nations, who has condemned Israel 10,000 times, but never said boo about the true evil, the real evil. But they want to attack the one democracy, the one island in a sea of tyranny and evil. They want to attack the one good thing of that region. Ladies and gentlemen, the United Nations is so upside down. To quote my good friend Evan Sayet, who I know was also has been a speaker here a couple of times, they turn the beautiful into the ugly, the profound into the profane. They just invert everything. And the United Nations is the best example of that. And I believe that a belief in American exceptionalism is incompatible with the United Nations. We don't ever want another country or another foreign body coming into America and telling us what we can do or what we can't do. We are the United States of America. We have freed more people than anyone else. Our military is the greatest vehicle against evil ever. Our Constitution is the best political document ever written. We are going to be proud and we are going to push back. That's exactly what we have to do.
Thank you. And this will be the last question. And then after that, Nick's going to drop down to the table in front of the Christmas tree. And if you'd like to meet him or walk by, I know he'd enjoy that. But here we are in Silicon Valley. And certainly the powers that be of Silicon Valley appear to be extremely liberal. Do you think that in private, the attitude is still their attitude, or do you even have an opinion on it?
Well, look, I probably haven't spent enough time here to be able to give a proper answer to that, but I can tell you that unfortunately a lot of people have been intimidated into not voicing their opinion, and conservative sentiment has been reduced to hushed tones and behind closed doors and locker room talk, to use a phrase that became popular during the election. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that there are a lot of people that do understand the beauty of the United States, that do understand that America is a conservative oasis in a socialistic world desert, that understand that conservative principles are what have made America the pinnacle nation on this earth. And I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we empower, to use the language of the left, that we empower those people to feel confident enough to come out and be voices for those opinions that they hold. We cannot allow ourselves to be bullied by the anti-bullying brigade. We have got to stand up, and we've got to do it right now, because time is running out. If we want to make sure that America reaches her third centennial in 2076. Our work begins right now here on the 13th of December 2016.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nick Adams.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.